And we're at the last phase and steps of design thinking, steps 5 and 6. Step 5 is to test, and step 6 is to implement and assess. This is a really exciting phase because it means that you're deploying all your ideas into the field. You can see here we've gone through, we've gone through everything. We started with empathy, we defined a problem, we've ideated, we've come up with lots of different ideas, we've picked 1 or 2 to prototype, and now we're rolling those out. And the idea in the test phase is really to share and test, to really be clear about what works and what doesn't and why not. And then to go back, if it's not working, go back into some of the other stages and begin again. Prototype again, go back to the beginning again, talk to the users, get some sense for why this might not be rolling out the way you would like, and be really clear about the fact that you're on a exploration mission to improve this process or the systems, and you're open-minded. You're not wedded to this one prototype that you're testing. You actually want to improve it, and you want truly honest feedback, and you want this feedback now so that you can adjust and pivot and make the changes that need to be so that you develop a product that's truly worthy. And then, of course, step 6 is about implementing and assessing. So step 5, trying your ideas out, returning to users for feedback, getting that feedback and using that feedback to change and to adapt and to improve your product or service or system. Whereas step 6 is very much putting that vision into action. It's really making change happen and finally seeing, all your hard work come to fruition. So when you go back to your target users, you can use some of the, we've talked about in earlier modules, we've talked about how you might be able to use different research methods. You might use interviews or surveys or observations, but your focus really will be about, does the solution meet users' needs? Has it improved how they do their tasks? Does it work as intended? That's the big thing. You can actually also get your users to test different alternatives of prototypes. So maybe you've got one prototype, maybe it's a digital solution and one's an app and one's a website, or it's about the locational deployment of the system. You need to try and show, don't tell. Let users interact with the prototype and observe. You can maybe deploy a talk aloud approach, where you ask users to talk through their steps and their thoughts to articulate what's happening, and always ask follow-up questions. Stay curious, ask why, ask about their feelings and their experiences. I'm not sure how familiar you are with this, but this is the technical readiness level, and it talks about beginning really in the research lab with basic technology and all the way up to actually deploying technology in commercial deployment. And there are different, sort of technological readiness. Level 4 means that it's kind of validated in a lab and you've got a proof of concept and you're ready to roll it out. This is possibly could be a useful framework to think about where you're at with different technologies and rolling them out. And the final design thinking step is implementing and assessing. So rolling the solution out, always proactively monitoring and responding to the real world user experience though. You haven't finished. I mean, design thinking is an iterative and engaging process. So you need to build in monitoring and evaluation metrics to identify any errors and issues and to improve user pain points. It really is this focus on always user-centered, always iterative and developmental, and focused on improving the experience. And I think it's a really good reminder that design thinking is not linear, so you can and should return to some of the other steps, such as the second step of empathy or the third step of ideation, to refine and pivot. And to remind us of this, I just want to briefly play this video, which talks about where good ideas come from.
This question of where good ideas come from. It's the kind of problem I think all of us are intrinsically interested in. We want to be more creative, we want to come up with better ideas, we want our organizations to be more innovative. I've looked at this problem from an environmental perspective. What are the spaces that have historically led to unusual rates of creativity and innovation? And what I've found in all of these systems, there are these recurring patterns that you see again and again that are crucial to creating environments that are unusually innovative. One pattern I call the slow hunch, that breakthrough ideas almost never come in a moment of great insight, in a sudden stroke of inspiration. Most important ideas take a long time to evolve, and they spend a long time dormant in the background. It isn't until the idea has had 2 or 3 years, sometimes 10 or 20 years to mature, that it suddenly becomes accessible to you and useful to you in a certain way. And this is partially because good ideas normally come from the collision between smaller hunches, so that they form something bigger than themselves. So you see a lot in the history of innovation, cases of someone who has half of an idea. There's a great story about the invention of the World Wide Web in Tim Berners-Lee. This is a project that Berners-Lee worked on for 10 years. But when he started, he didn't have a full vision for this new medium he was going to invent. He started working on one project as a side project to help him organize his own data. He scrapped that after a couple years, and he started working on another thing. And only after about 10 years did the full vision of the World Wide Web come into being. That is, more often than not, how ideas happen. They need time to incubate, and they spend a lot of time in this partial hunch form. The other thing that's important when you think about ideas this way is that when ideas take form in this hunch state, they need to collide with other hunches. Oftentimes, the thing that turns a hunch into a real breakthrough is another hunch that's lurking in somebody else's mind. And you have to figure out a way to create systems that allow those hunches to come together and turn into something bigger than the sum of their parts. That's why, for instance, the coffee house in the Age of the Enlightenment, or the Parisian salons of modernism, were such engines of creativity, because they created a space where ideas could mingle and swap and create new forms. When you look at the problem of innovation from this perspective, it sheds a lot of important light on the debate we've been having recently about what the internet is doing to our brains. Are we getting overwhelmed with an always connected, multitasking lifestyle? And is that going to lead to less sophisticated thoughts as we move away from the slower, deeper, contemplative state of reading, for instance? Obviously, I'm a big fan of reading, but I think it's important to remember that the great driver of scientific innovation and technological innovation has been the historic increase in connectivity, in our ability to reach out and exchange ideas with other people, and to borrow other people's hunches and combine them with our hunches and turn them into something new. That really has, I think, been, more than anything else, the primary engine of creativity and innovation over the last 600 or 700 years. And so yes, it's true we're more distracted. But what has happened that is really miraculous and marvelous over the last 15 years is that we have so many new ways to connect and so many new ways to reach out and find other people who have that missing piece that will complete the idea we're working on, or to stumble serendipitously across some amazing new piece of information that we can use to build and improve our own ideas. That's the real lesson of where good ideas come from, that chance favors the connected mind.
And so that's a great example of how, if we can connect and learn and be inspired through ideas, we can actually change.
Isn't caused by laziness or lack of